So in the last couple of videos, we've looked at data modeling at a very high conceptual level. So you identify things in your scenario and some of their characteristics. Now what we need to do is we need to have a slightly more formal way of describing the situation, describing our data model. So entity relationship modeling has been the standard approach for doing that for quite a long time. So that's where the ER comes from, entity relationship. So I wanted to take a quick look at, it's certainly obvious that there are going to be at least two notions, and one of them is entities. So these represent what I call, in previous videos, the things in the system. Now, entities have characteristics, which are represented by ovals, and they're the properties of the entities, and also they can be properties of relationships, and they're called attributes. ER notation has a number of different forms. Generally, it doesn't vary in these three aspects, but there are clearly variations in the way that you represent relationships. Now, that's obviously the other component of ER, is the fact that we want to describe relationships between entities. So, right, so ultimately we have to take our conceptual data model that we came up with. So if we think about that movie example, we had movies are an entity. We identified a number of different properties of movies, like the title, the year it was made, and so on. They'll be represented as attributes, and then there were relationships between them. So given these very simple modelling constructs, we can actually describe quite complex scenarios. So I'll do a quick example for the movie database, and I'm kind of preempting some of the ER design videos to follow, but hey, that's all right. So this entity, we have an entity called movie, and I will relate movies to people. And if you remember back to that prior video, then there was a relationship. Oh dear, I haven't left enough room. Let me just move that up a little bit. I didn't leave enough room to put the relationship in. Okay, speaking of the relationship, here's the relationship. So a person plays some kind of role in a movie. All right, so how do we represent the fact that there is a relationship between people and movies? We put a relationship diamond in between them, and then we put lines to connect the two entities via the relationship. Now in this case, at the moment I don't have any attributes, so let's just put a couple in quickly. So we've got the movie title, the year it was made, the length in minutes of the runtime. So there's three simple attributes. For people, we also have a title for that person, which is their name. And I think I mentioned last time that movie fans seem to be obsessed with actors' birthdays, so we'll store a date of birth for those people. So some kind of obvious things, we've got our things, and we've got the characteristics associated with those things. One less obvious thing is that sometimes relationships also have characteristics associated with them. And we saw from that previous example that one thing that we were going to indicate is what role a particular person plays in a particular movie. Now, if you think about that, it can't be a property of the person, because the person may have a number of roles, like Clint Eastwood is an actor and a director. So you can't just say person Clint Eastwood, role actor. So whether he's an actor or director depends, is determined by what movie we're currently talking about. And he may even be both, in which case there'd be two examples of Clint Eastwood being related to a particular movie. One where the role was actor, the other where the role was director. The other aspect of relationship between people and movies that I mentioned before was for actors and actors only. We might be interested in what character they played in the movie. So, forgotten his name, whoever played Harry Potter in all the Harry Potter movies. So he'd have a name, Daniel Radcliffe. He'd have a name down here. He's part of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and in that movie he had the role of an actor and he played a character, Harry Potter. So that's how we could model all of that kind of information. So critical thing to learn from this video, the entity relationship model has three basic components. We model entities, which are the things that we've identified in our scenario. We model attributes, which are the properties that we identified in our scenario. And we model the connections between those things using diamond relationships. I'll show more details of how to do that in particular scenarios in some of the following videos.